support.
Mr. Ford, where's your plan? How are people going to know who you're going to be?
I will tell you about my plan, Andrea. Let me tell you about my plan. Unlike yours, Andrea.
Honest.
You're driving the hydro cost up. You're driving the gas prices up here.
Your plan on hydro is the
with
same
a carbon
as Ms.
tax. I'll tell you one thing.
Your plan on hydro is the same.
I'm not going to have a bunch of extremists downtown Toronto deciding what the people of the North are going to do.
That was a scene at the Ontario Leaders Debate this morning. The testiest exchanges between Doug Ford and Andrea Horwath. Joining me now with his analysis is the Toronto Star's Martin Regg. Cohn. Great to have you on. I want to talk a little bit about that exchange and others. The fact that we are talking so much about Andrea Horwath, is it a sign that Doug Ford and Kathleen Wynne, to a certain extent, are seeing her more as a threat?
Yes and no. Obviously, Andrea Horwath was front and center today in a way that she wasn't in the previous debate. It's tempting to say that that's because the campaign has been turned upside down and that the dark horse third place candidate is suddenly seeing a surge. We haven't really seen conclusive evidence of that in the polls. It's not to say it's not happening. The reason why Doug Ford took strong aim, direct aim at Andrea Horwath today is simply that this was a debate on northern issues and northern Ontario, and the NDP holds a significant number of seats in the north. And so it's really, these are seats that the Doug Ford progressive conservatives are hoping to target. He wants to eat her lunch there. So that was another reason for doing it. But you raise a good point. We saw today a different kind of Ontario election campaign, whereas before it was very much a front-runners campaign with the Tory leader undoubtedly far in front and almost coasting to victory. Today, we saw the eruption of a completely different kind of three-way election campaign.
In that clip, certainly, you just saw Kathleen Wynne standing there on the sidelines. You know, how was her performance in the rest of the debate? Was she doing what she needed to do? Was she aggressive? Was she getting her points across?
Well, you asked two questions there, both of them good. She performed reasonly well. She was certainly balanced, factual, in control of the facts. But did she do what she needed to do was the sort of follow-up question that you snuck in there, and arguably she did not. She was performing as if she were the front runner, as if she were the premier presiding at a cabinet committee with the facts at her command and adjudicating between competing ministers. She needs to break this race open a little bit. She's far behind, or significantly behind. She's in a fight for second place between herself, the Liberals, and the New Democrats. And in that sense, she didn't distinguish herself today. She certainly made no gaffes, and she certainly had a credible performance. But did she do what she needed to do? Probably not. She has one more chance on May 27th.
So if she didn't distinguish herself, who did? Who do you think came out on top?
Well, again, two questions. Doug Ford definitely distinguished himself. He was by far the most interesting performer because he was quite aggressive, quite forceful in his approach. And he took aim at the third-party leader, the NDP leader, who may be vying, as I say, for second place, in sometimes almost comical ways, in the sense that kept accusing her of being for the downtown Toronto elites. She's actually from Hamilton. He's from Toronto. And said that she was harboring environmental extremists, and that might play well with some in the North because the candidate he was referring to has been critical of mines. But he was surprisingly combative in tangling with the NDP. And in that way, he has broken it up into a three-way race that we hadn't yet seen.
And Ford, you know, as you mentioned, sort of playing on those politics of division, right? Well, one line that stood out for me is, as I think you just alluded to, a bunch of extremists in downtown Toronto deciding what the people of the North are going to do. So really playing up, in this case, a North-South divide.
That's right. In a sense, that was your follow-up question because you said, well, did it work for him? And that's hard to say. I don't know that it plays well when you are quite that forceful. And at one point, he made fun of the two leaders together and said, "Oh, I'll just let them fight it out." Look, it's hard to know how these things play. With his core, it might have been forceful. He made another reference. We talked about the environmental extremism allegation, which may or may not carry, depending on your subjective point of view. He made another reference in the debate to we need to take care of our own first, in reference to a question about whether we ought to have more immigrants, specially targeted to Northern Ontario, which does experience population drains. That was a line that a lot of the media focused on today because it has, you talk about the politics of division, it has a sense of being almost a wedge issue. I don't know about that. You know, he is a populist first and foremost. And while I wouldn't agree with what he said and kind of the anti-immigrant tone and undertone there, that might play. He may have reason to believe, as his brother, his late brother, the former mayor, Rob Ford, famously said, when there were boatloads of Sri Lankan refugee claimants coming several years ago, said, you know, we don't need extra people. We need to take care of our own workforce first. And everybody was outraged. Rob Ford went on to become mayor.
Yeah, part of his strategy. Mr. Cohn, I appreciate your analysis and perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.